Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight we're joined by race car driver Lindsay Brewer. Lindsay, I got to start out with you and our audience by saying that my children gave me some sort of a beautiful virus that has changed my voice. I don't know what to say. We're gonna get through it and we'll do our best.
It sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to just go with a very deep voice here today. Obviously, you are one of few women that are in the racing circuit, but I think it's so cool that you are out there on the track with all the men. I understand you started at 11 years old, though, with a trip to the go-kart track. I mean, is this something I should be doing with my kids when they're 11? Do we think
Yes,
they have a shot?
I think so. I mean, I fell in love with racing at a young age, and I don't regret it at all. I definitely think you should get your kids into it. But yeah, if you want, I can just get into my story of how I started.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, like you're a young, beautiful woman, and you're out there racing cars. I think it's awesome. Like, how did this happen?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I started karting, like you said, when I was 11. I went to a birthday party at a go-kart track, and I'm from Arvada, Colorado. So I grew up snowmobiling, jet skiing, four-wheeling, doing all sorts of like outdoor activities. So when I went to the go-kart track, I absolutely fell in love with it. I ended up beating all the adults and all the boys in the rental cart. And so then, yeah, and there was this kid who let me borrow his cart who owned a competitive one, and I hopped in it, and I was quicker than him. So my dad bought me my first cart, and I kind of just started like that.
Wow. So do you have siblings?
Yes, I have one brother, and he was there that day, and he is probably one of the least competitive people I know.
Oh.
He doesn't like racing. He doesn't like any of that. So yeah.
Is he older or younger than you?
He is a year and a half older.
Oh, so this is so interesting. This is basically the setup at my house. And I've been a very competitive person my whole life and done all kinds of crazy stuff. Obviously, nothing like quite this wild in terms of going fast on a racetrack. But I think it's always interesting because oftentimes I think that whenever women have older brothers that they look up to, sometimes that kind of prompts this. But it's so funny you're saying your brother is not that competitive. That's so interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting that we grew up I'm a type A person, and he's very type B. So I feel like he just didn't really care to ever be super competitive with it. And he loves cars, but he just doesn't really like the competition, you know?
Wow. And you call it karting.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm learning so much already. So I'm just thinking about this from the perspective of a parent, and like the idea that my 11-year-old daughter would be getting in some souped up go-kart and flying around a track, I find semi horrifying. Of course, like this is how I know I'm really old and like a parent now. How did your parents react to this?
Well, for sure, everyone kept asking my parents, how do you let your little girl race go-karts? There's people who are flipping the carts and getting in accidents. And my parents always just said they knew how much I loved it, and so they wanted to see me. They saw the passion. They wanted to see me succeed. And they always told people, you could get hurt skiing. You could get hurt walking across the street. You could get hurt doing anything. So if this is something you love, that she loves, and we're gonna support her on it. And especially with sports like football, like that's way more dangerous, like injury wise. So I feel like it's not as crazy as people think it is. Of course, if there's a bad crash, it's bad, but like you don't typically get as many injuries as you would in like contact sports.
Well, so the irony of all of this is I was a cheerleader growing up, and actually cheerleading I think ranks as the highest number of visits to emergency rooms for any sport, like over a year period of time, and just in an average year.
Yeah, I broke my ankle cheerleading, and I did non-competitive, but yeah, it was more dangerous so far.
See, and it's so interesting that as a race car driver, you're saying that's safer. I don't think most people would get that, but if you've been a cheerleader, you understand. I broke my nose cheerleading. I've had all kinds of injuries cheerleading. Yeah. So trust me. So you started racing competitively then, I guess sometime in your teenage years, but you decided to stop racing and go to college, I guess, get your bachelor's degree. How was that decision for you? Because I mean, you hear about a lot of athletes in various sports that if they're really excelling in whatever it is they do, oftentimes they just kind of go straight through. They don't even go to college. They skip that. Did your parents push you to go to college? Like, how did that all work?
Yes, they definitely pushed me to go to college. So it was something my parents always wanted me to do. And of course, I always wanted to get my degree as well. So with racing, it is very expensive of a sport. So they were like, all right, like now you're going to go to college. Like, we're not going to financially support your racing right now, especially as I was moving up the ranks, it gets more and more expensive. So it's just at that point, you need like a corporate sponsor, usually something like that. So I went off to college when I was 18, and unfortunately I had to take a few years off because, you know, it's hard when you're a full-time student to market yourself and try to get sponsors and talk to companies and do this and that. So it was like it was a really rough time. I'm super like happy I got my degree, and I would do everything the exact same way because it is so important to get an education. And I got my business degree in 2019 from San Diego State. And then I started racing again full-time last year. So 2020 was supposed to be my first year, but obviously that was a shit show.
Well, it messed everything up for everybody, right? I mean, thanks, China. So it's so great though that you did that, because I think back to, you know, my time in college, and first of all, the memories I have and the people I met are great, but you always have that to fall back on. Like, who knows what happens when you're an athlete? You could get injured and like, that's it, right? And so at least you always have that. I think it's always the smart way to go. So if you didn't love racing and weren't as involved as you are, what do you think you'd be doing right now post-college?
I really have always been interested in real estate. So I think that if I and my mom's a residential agent, and she has a brokerage license too, or broker license. And so real estate's always been a big passion of mine. So I think if I wasn't involved in the motorsport community at all, I think I'd be in real estate. And if I wasn't racing, I feel like I would still be involved in motorsports and stuff like that. But if it were to be any other, you know, genre at all, it would be real estate.
Wow, interesting. Well, we know some people in the real estate industry, just throwing it out there. So, yeah, we know a few folks. So at the end of the month, you are going to be racing in your first Indy Pro 2000 championship. I mean, tell me about this. How big of a deal is this? How are you feeling about it? Because it's a pretty big deal from what I understand.
So yeah, this is definitely a really big step up this year, what I'm doing. So the road to IndyCar is no joke. It is open wheel driving, and it's some of the best drivers in the country, if not the world, are doing this. So there's a lot of different racing series, whether it be sports cars, open wheel, NASCAR route. And this is a very, very competitive series I'm going to be in. So I've been training a lot, and I'm super excited for my first race. Definitely a bit nervous because it's my first race in this series. And like I said, the competition's super tough, but I'm confident with the training I've put in. I've been very, very dedicated. So, you know, I'm hoping it pays off, and yeah, I'm confident, but definitely got nerves, but I think I'll use it for the good, you know?
Yeah. Some nerves are good. Some nerves you need a little bit of that. Otherwise, you know, maybe you need the adrenaline to get you going. So you just mentioned that you're competing in open wheel racing. So for people that maybe don't know what that is, this is where the cockpit is open, similar to Formula One, versus if you watch NASCAR, right, where people that's all closed. Obviously, I'm not a race car expert. You may be aware of that, but is there any fear knowing that you're traveling so fast, hundreds of miles an hour, with no windshield, with no top? Like, I mean, what is that like?
So they've really advanced the safety precautions there's been a lot of safety advancement with the cars in general. Like, there's this new system called the Halo, where it's like a metal bar that goes over the top of the car and over my head. So if you flip, you know, you have it, or something comes up over you, you're protected that way. Of course, it is, you know, you don't ever want to get hurt or get in a bad crash. But for me, open wheel driving, they've had so much advancement in safety, and it's pretty much all racing's pretty comparable. There's not like a serious difference in safety between NASCAR, Formula One. I mean, Formula One and like IndyCar, I feel like they all are so advanced that, and if it's pretty much fine. But of course, there's like I got my first really bad crash last year, and that was not fun. Headed towards the wall at like 90 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
I was fine. I like got out. I had a sore back, but again, the technology's gotten so good that, you know, I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness. It's a scary thing in general. My husband and I did some like race course out in the desert outside of Vegas one time, and we were racing like Corvettes or something. This is like 10 years ago. It was really fun, but I mean, we weren't going like that fast, and obviously it's all closed in, but I just think about, you know, that must have been terrifying though, to know in the moment, like, okay, I'm going to crash, like this is happening.
What happens?
Right?
You take your hands off the wheel so it doesn't hurt you, and you're just like, Jesus, take the wheel at this time.
You take your hands off the wheel?
Yeah, because if it snaps, and it can like hurt your wrist. You have to like take your hands off. Yeah.
Wow. I'm learning so much. Now, how about when you're out like driving yourself around on just the regular roads? Do you have the urge to just like go for it sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a little bit aggressive. I'm not crazy. I'm not one of those people that swerves lanes and is dangerous or anything like that. But I definitely get a little bit irritated with people on the road if they're going very slow.
Join the club, man. I mean, it's rough. I will say, if you ask my husband, he would probably label me as a slightly aggressive driver. I mean, I think you and I probably have very similar personalities. I'm definitely type A. But man, the people that are like literally just, they don't know what's going on the road. They don't understand the rules of the road. They're wearing a mask in their car. There's a lot of stuff that really sets me off and really gets me. But yeah, I can appreciate that. And obviously I'm not a professional race car driver.
It's always the best when they're like, you look over and they're wearing a mask, like alone in the car, and they're swerving, and it's just,
what are we doing?
Like, get off the road.
Like you have no business being in a car at all, as far as I'm concerned. Now, obviously, there have been a few professional drivers that are women, but it is still largely a male-dominated sport. So how is that competing against other men and women, of course, who are all trying to make it to, you know, the highest level in the sport? Did it intimidate you at any point to know that you were such a minority in what you do?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I feel like the boys definitely picked on me a bit more because they're young and immature, and they're like, oh, you know, like, we don't want to get beat by the girl. And so I feel like they'd be definitely more aggressive and hit me off and this and that. So that was a bit intimidating. You feel like you have a little bit of a target on your back. But as we've matured, I find, like, especially as you go up in the ranks more, people are more respectful and kind of look at you. They look at you more as a driver, not just a girl, but there still definitely is adversity against me. Especially, you know, since I do enjoy modeling and I enjoy getting my nails done and hair, and like sometimes it's hard to be taken seriously, but I'm never not going to do that. And I don't care what I look like. I'm a driver, same as you. And so sometimes it gets to your head, but you just got to push past it and realize, you know, I'm just when I put the helmet on, I'm just a driver. And that's the truth. I feel like
and by the way, you get out there and you prove it. Like, yes, I look cute, and yes, I got my nails done yesterday, but I can still kick your ass out here. So watch it. You know what I mean? I sort of love that. I mean, there are very few sports out there, I feel like, where you can just, there's kind of a level playing field for men and women. That's so interesting to me about race car driving. I'm actually trying to think of another one where sort of it's, I don't know, maybe something you can consider. Which one?
Kind of golf is, I feel like, similar if you go from the women's tees and like that.
Yeah, it's still not the same. The men still have an advantage. I mean, maybe something like poker. That's not like something like that. I don't know if you call that a sport, but I mean, that's kind of a cool aspect of what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's just definitely interesting how women, it's nice how I feel like I'm on a level playing field, because it's not something that I feel like, oh, they have such a big advantage over me. But the biggest thing I will say is that the car is very, very physical. Open wheel cars are very physical, and there's no power steering. There's so much downforce, and there's so much downforce in the car going so fast through the corners that it's very physical. So as a smaller framed girl, I feel like I am at a disadvantage, but I have to just train that much harder. So that's, I think, the only thing. But as far as like sports car racing, stuff like that with power steering, I find that there's no disadvantage to women, and any woman could just go in and do that.
Yeah, and by the way, like absolutely, you should just be yourself and do the things that make you feel good and feminine. Nobody should ever have to conform to look a certain way to, you know, do what it is that they love.
Exactly.
So I give you a lot of props for that. I think that's great that that's how you operate. What about
criticized?
Oh, I'm sure. No, go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, I've been criticized, I find, even from other women in motorsports because, you know, they're like, oh, you know, we've tried so hard to be taken seriously by the men in this sport, and which is true. They've done a lot to be taken seriously. I get that. But so they're like, why are you posting? Like, why did you post a swimwear photo with your friends at the beach? Like, you shouldn't be posting things like that. Like,
you look cute.
And I'm like, if you're a true feminist, you should allow women to dress how they want, act how they want, and, you know, be themselves. And you can still be a competitor. No.
Yeah.
So
you do what makes you feel good. You do what makes you happy. That's honestly the only way to operate in life in general, I think. What about the training that you do? I'm really fascinated by this because I still am competitive in certain sports and things now, even at my old haggard age. But what is the training for a race car driver? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, so what we do is there's certain exercises that we do to train for the car, because there's certain muscles you use in the car that you wouldn't just do at the gym, like bicep curls. You can't that doesn't hit all the muscles. So I belong to this training center called Pit Fit that specifically just trains race car drivers, and they have like certain workouts that work certain parts of your arms that, you know, you wouldn't normally just do in the gym. And we have neck exercises because your neck with all the G forces gets tired. And then I also, for training, do a lot of simulator work. So I have a racing simulator and I get to just go on it. And that's more just like driving practice as training, but equally as important. And just, I still, like, when I don't have time to go to Pit Fit or do that program, I just focus on cardio, just typical training. But I'm training probably 4 to 5 days a week pretty intensely now because, like I said, this year, this car is super, super physical for me.
Yeah, so gosh, no power steering. That's rough. That's a lot of work. I mean, yeah, I've driven those a couple of times, a handful of times, but that is not a pleasant thing. Well, I think it's awesome, all the things you do. I feel like maybe I should have gotten into this because I love the level.
You can always come out. Come out.
I don't know.
I'll take you.
Yeah. By the way, I would love to. I would totally love to. And my husband my kids are young. They're 2 and 4. My husband is always talking about how much he wants to get them on like 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and all that stuff. It sounds like that's how you started too. So I mean, maybe he's right. I hate to admit it, right?
No, I did. I started just as a young age driving things like snowmobiles. I think I got my first snowmobile when I was 3. And
oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, it's like one of those little ones that you putz around the yard. And same with the 4-wheeler. And I remember I would sit on my mom's lap and I would be like 2 or 3 and she would be driving the jet ski and I'd push her thumb to go faster. I'm like, go faster. So I always just loved speed and driving. You definitely should get your kids into something, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. And a lot of people don't.
Yeah, you know what? I'm let them try it all. We'll see what happens, obviously. But I'm sure your parents must be so proud of you.
Yeah, it's been really nice, especially because a lot of us, they thought I would be done racing once I went to college, and a lot of people, they just thought I'd be done. And I kind of thought for a bit, I was like, is this it? And then I was like, no, you're going to be fine. Just keep working at it. And so they're really happy to see me doing what I love and really excelling at it right now. So
what is the average age of retirement for race car drivers? I have no idea.
It's honestly, you can, like, Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One champion, is almost 40, I believe, and there's a lot of guys in their 40s racing Indy cars. So
I'm just gonna squeak by if I start now, Lindsay.
Yeah. Well, it's in sports car racing. There's people in their 70s doing it, for fun. Like
there's still hope for me.
Yeah, there's
a couple of good years left. Amazing.
Just a couple of years.
Well, I
feel old doing open wheel because I find people in my group are like 21, 22, and I'm a couple years older, but I feel old. I'm 24.
Oh God. Don't even get me started now. So obviously my show, we talk a lot about loving this country. And I have to ask you, what do you think is the best part of America, Lindsay? And what do you think is the biggest threat to the future of our country?
I think the best part of our country is the freedoms that we have. I think a lot of people take for granted how much freedom we have, and they kind of, I feel like when things are so good in your country, they have to find something to complain about a bit. Like
Right.
they forget the freedoms and the opportunities and all the great things about this country. So the freedom and opportunity, I think, would be the best part. And I think the worst part is if people don't really open their eyes to what's going on in around the world and in their government, and they stop standing up for what they believe in. I think that probably would be the demise of it. I think people should always just stay informed, stay updated, and, you know, be able to make their own conscious decision without listening to the top government and this and that. So yeah, I think, you know, the country we live in is great, and we want to continue to keep it great. So
Amen.
People forget.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful country, and I think, you know, people need to remember that and support it.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky to get to live here. We're so lucky to, I think you're right. I think sometimes when, I mean, this is like some women I know, and I mean men too, when people get bored and they don't have anything truly to complain about, then they just start nitpicking things. Yeah. Perhaps that is what is going on for some folks in our country right now. It's a great point. It's so good that they have no idea how great they actually have it.
You can nitpick if you can nitpick at this, like, obviously you're having a good enough life. Like, whereas people in really like impoverished situations, they're not going to complain about this and that. Like, they're just trying to survive. So we're just so fortunate that we have the opportunities to do and live in such a great country. So it's just,
we're very lucky. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, now, Lindsay, if people want to follow you and follow your racing, where can they find out more? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Lindsay Marie Brewer. I'm on Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube. You could just look up my name, and I'm pretty much on all social channels now. So I'm going to be posting YouTube videos every single week. So make sure to follow those along. That is going to be kind of on my journey this year in my racing series. So that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, just, I think, follow my Instagram. I post most often there. So yeah.
Me too. No, I don't. I know. The rest of them are just kind of rough.
It's hard to keep up with so many, but
oh my God, I know.
But yeah, Instagram's definitely, I'm the most active there.
I hear it. Well, listen, good luck with everything. I know you have a lot of big stuff on the horizon. We're going to be watching. We're going to be cheering you on. Keeping you keep just kicking ass and taking names. I love it. Love to see it. And we'll check back in with you and see how it's going. So, Lindsay, thank you for being on The Right View today, and to everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. And it sounds like I smoke 10 packs a day. Maybe next time my voice will be better. So thank you to everybody for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
See you later. Bye.